I mean, can you imagine if like there's just a sale on ammo and the next thing you know, your local PD is knocking on your door
Hey, you bought some.
because Visa was like, we are the Arms Attorneys. Today we are talking about how the country is split down the middle about how to put you on a list and track your firearms. We're going to talk about what the big banks and big governments are up to, how the states are split, and finally, how is this all going to get resolved, and hopefully, how do we resolve it in the gun owner's favor? But before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting the like button. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Vanish, and they have a gigantic giveaway. You are not going to want to miss it. We have something important for y'all. It is a chance to win a dream vacation and get the most comfortable holster you'll ever wear.
Between the two of us, we've tried a lot of different holsters, and the Vanish holster by far is one of the most comfortable we've ever used for everyday carry. With a 48-inch waist belt, the Vanish holster offers the perfect fit for everyone. I have one and love the adjustable belt, which is super durable and wicks moisture away.
The Vanish weighs only 6 ounces, and because the pocket pulls your gun close to the body, there's virtually zero printing. It's ambidextrous so that even left-handed shooters can carry comfortably.
It features 2 utility or mag pouches with an enhanced non-penetrable trigger guard for maximum safety. However, whenever you need it, the magnetic closure allows for an easy thumb brake.
I carry my Vanish holster all the time. It wicks that moisture away so it's comfortable in this brutal Houston summer. Plus, I know that I'm carrying safely around my kids. We've partnered with Vanish Holsters to give one of you a $5,000 dream vacation for anyone who purchases a holster in this month of July.
To enter, all you have to do is click our link in the description below and equip yourself with the most comfortable holster you'll ever wear, or your money back guaranteed. So this revolves around, big government partnering with corporations, in this case, banks, and as it relates to merchant category codes. Now, these are codes promulgated by an organization out of Switzerland. They do all kinds of things from like what the little symbols appear on your dashboard in your car to merchant category codes for different types of transactions. Now, up until
I didn't know that. I didn't know they did
yeah,
the car
they do all
symbols.
kinds of stuff.
Wow, you learned something new.
Yeah, but up until recently, they haven't really been, breathing down our necks that much. But they have created new merchant category codes for firearms, ammunition, and firearms accessories. Now, how does this stuff, kind of start wiggling its way into our world? Well, when you, in the past, went to let's say a gun store or sporting goods store, you would buy firearms, ammunition, and it would just be categorized as sporting goods. That's how it would appear, in all these, you look at the matrix of all the data that these banks are passing around. That's what it would look like. Well, what changed? Well, now it gets a little bit more specific, and it would specify firearms, accessories, ammunition. So more data. So how have the states responded to this? So we had this come up in Texas. This is actually a bill that we drafted and lobbied for.
Richard drafted.
Championed by Representative Matt Schaefer. We got this passed, and it prohibits financial institutions from tracking this stuff here in the state of Texas. So
Yeah.
that's a big win. And we talk about this kind of stuff. That kind of seems where the fight is going to be for the Second Amendment for the foreseeable future.
Right. And
Privacy.
the reason that Matt, with Richard's help, because I'll tell you, I did not draft that bill. It was very complicated. The reason that they wanted to do that is exactly what California has now mandated, which is the tracking codes and the banks and the credit card companies required by law to report suspicious activity to law enforcement.
Yeah, so we have out of California Assembly Bill 1587. It does the exact opposite.
Yes.
Where our law said, hey, financial institutions, you can't track this information. If you do, you have to notify consumers. The attorney general can sue you. You can get fined. All these terrible things. Bizarro upside down land over in California. They're saying you have to track this information. If you don't, we're going to come after you. We're going to sue you. It's
And
terrible.
you have to give that information to the police. That's the worst part of the California bill.
Yeah.
Because if I am a compliance lawyer for the banks or the credit card companies, and I see any firearms traffic, I'm going to say, just send it all over, because I don't want to get sued for not dinging the guy who goes on to commit some sort of act of mass violence, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is what I want to happen. I'm saying if I'm that lawyer, I'm telling the banks, send it all. Send it every time.
Well, that's what that's a lawyer I don't want to say a lawyer trick, but it's very easy to say no as a lawyer. Like, nah, we're just going to give all this stuff over. Where I think some of the greatest lawyers shine is when they say, yes, I'm confident you can do this, because it's easy to say no. You can say no all day long, but if you say yes, well, now you're subjecting yourself to certain liability. Well, these lawyers, they are going to advise their banks to just turn over all this stuff. And do we have an expectation of privacy in records held by third parties?
Nope.
No, unfortunately not. And so we have this unholy union of government and big banks. The banks doing things that the government wouldn't be allowed to do. The government kind of forcing banks to gather information and then utilizing that information. And we don't like lists.
No, I mean, can you imagine if like there's just a sale on ammo and the next thing you know, your local PD is knocking on your door
Hey, you bought some.
because Visa was like, you bought a lot of ammo. I mean, really, because that's how bad it is. Because it's, I mean, potentially even, let's say you go to the gun store and there's just a gigantic sale on accessories. That's going to be coded as firearms too. And all of a sudden you got the police at your door for not even buying guns or ammunition, which is like, I mean, it's all equal levels of bad, but that's just how ridiculous it is. However, we've got the California style states. They're not the only ones. We've got
No,
the
I think New York's trying to do that as well.
Yeah.
I imagine Oregon and Washington aren't far behind.
We've got the Texas style states. We are not
Texas,
the only ones.
Texas, Tennessee, there's
Yeah.
a handful of others.
So what now happens? Do we just live in a weird patchwork where sometimes the banks are going to get sued for reporting and sometimes the banks are going to get sued for not reporting?
Thank God the banks don't have a ton of lobbyists in Washington.
I know that was actually the best part of Richard writing that bill is that like the bank lobbyists were so
They were
mad.
very, very mad.
Oh my God, they were upset. That was very funny. But so, yes, so what happens then? I mean, I don't think, again, the banks are going to have to beef up their compliance department so much and jump through so many hoops and get so much heartburn about this split state by state. I don't think the banks are going to let that stand.
No, and I imagine that they are going to lobby for the federal government to step in on the federal level and let's have a uniform, consistent rule across the United States. And
Yep.
typically, when the federal government tries to legislate things, especially as it relates to firearms, it doesn't go well.
No, but
Oh,
yes.
ooh, I have another question that we didn't even talk about.
Oh.
Would the privacy of these firearms transactions be covered by New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin?
No, I think they would
Problem.
weasel. I think they would weasel their way out of Bruin.
We're gonna get
with
a
these.
lot of heat for that.
Well, I'm not saying how I want the world to be. I'm
Yes.
saying when I think it's gonna happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're looking at do gun owners win, especially when it comes to this type, I mean, this is a outer boundary issue. Just the way the world is, gun owners don't usually win. And so when we say that, that's not saying that's the way we want the world to
Right.
be. That's just the reality of the
The
situation.
reality of it. So yes, I mean that's the scary part is that I think that the most logical next step is banks pushing for some sort of legislation on the federal level. But then what that legislation looks like. I mean, if I'm the banks, it's easier for me to not report than report, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way they go. But then ultimately it's up to what does our congressional and executive makeup look like here in the next several years? I mean, that's what's gonna determine whether or not we're all getting reported or none of us are getting reported, right?
Yeah, but if you've been following this channel, then you know that Emily has already provided you a solution. She says this all the time. Cash is king.
Ah, that's right. Cash only, no papers. My favorite new quote. So, but I mean, I'd like to know from you guys, where do you think the 2A privacy infringements come next? Because I mean, honestly, the problem is that the big corporations have been sort of woke recently, and I think they're moving away from that. But
Yeah.
but that's an issue to me, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
It could come anywhere.
but I would say, two heads are better than one. I want to know what y'all think where the 2A privacy fight lives because, I mean, we get a lot of inspiration from y'all folks in the comment section, but we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And do comment and let us know who you think is infringing your privacy next. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.